About the incident of April 11th, 2024. I don't want to speak too much for the legislators. You'll hear from everybody. I think the common theme here is going to be there's a lot of frustration for lack of progress and transparency. One thing I do want to say, we all understand the special prosecutor in this case, his hands were tied. He could only do what he could do with the information that he got, which was a year after the fact. So we're not really here to talk about what he did because he could only do what he could do. We're talking about all the other things that surrounded that incident that may or may not have happened. You know, there's things of witnesses that won't cooperate, body cam footage supposedly that was taped over. You know, so today we're sending a letter to the governor asking her to give authority to the AG to investigate this whole incident and anybody who touched this incident, because the AG does not have jurisdiction over this case. She needs authority from the governor to do this. So before I go on and answer any more questions, I want to let you've all had heard from me a bunch of times about this whole situation. So I want to let our legislators tell you what they feel about it. I'll let the Comptroller, if he wants to weigh in, and then I'll take any questions, what we have. But next, I'm going to go to Legislator Barnese and let him speak first, and then we'll go through.
You know, it's more of the same. We're not here pointing fingers. That's not the point. It's about restoring public trust. Transparency has been lacking every step of the way, from the sheriff's office to the officers involved. And taxpayers deserve an answer on how $60,000 of damages occurred and were ignored. So it's just, we need to have an oversight on this whole process, on what took place, and we need to put it to bed. We need answers, and we need it to end. The residents of this county are asking us as legislators for the answers. We don't have them. Everybody says they're doing an investigation. I know the city of Buffalo spent quite a bit of time on their part of it, and from what I understand, quite a bit of money. And Tim had talked about where it went from there. But we need someone who has jurisdiction over the entire process to give us the answers that the public's demanding. So I stand here before you in full favor of this letter and support. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Legislator Bynum.
Thank you. Thanks. One of the great things about a legislative body is that people bring their own ideas and experience. I look at this as that we're joining the chorus of people asking the Attorney General to investigate, and the Attorney General does have the resources and the personnel to do it. And the AG has in it, it's a law enforcement misconduct investigation office that was started about 4.5 years ago by Executive Law 75 that gives them jurisdiction over all 500 police departments. And here, because there's allegation that preferential treatment was given to this sheriff's office by calling his relative to come to the scene and remove the people who actually would be responding in due course, that's a pretty serious issue. I look at it, the money to me is the least about it, because I think as employers, they have a duty. If you let someone use your car, you have a duty to pay for the damage. So I have a different feeling on that. To me, the problem is like when you talk about the consent of the governed, you need to have everyone treated fairly. You can't have certain people who are allowed to do whatever and have no consequences, of meaningful consequences, and have a cover-up. We learned that in the Catholic Church with the priest scandal. Cover-up isn't the answer. It's getting to the bottom of it, no matter how long it takes. So to me, this is the start. This isn't the end. If for some reason the Attorney General won't investigate it, and even at the same time, we can also continue doing our part on it. But I do think that it's something that we have to find out why. One other aspect is if you look at the sheriff's budget, it's such a huge, here's the budget of the sheriff, it's about 60% of the property tax. That's how much we give the sheriff just for personnel costs. And such a huge part of that is for overtime. And we have a case here where initially they didn't know, was he working, was he not working? How does an employer not know if someone was working or not when they hit the 7 cars? All right, and then second is, are there rules that the county executive only has 4 take-home vehicles? The sheriff has practically everybody has a take-home vehicle, and they're not all marked cars, they're private cars. So I had originally asked for a FOIL request twice. Once it was denied because of the investigation, and the other time it was ignored. So I did file another one with the Sheriff's Office today, which I'll give you guys a copy of, and clocked it in so that we can all together watch the response to get to the issues. On the financial part, to me, isn't the $60,000 or $70,000 paid for property damage. It's the total lack of oversight on overtime. Which is millions and millions of dollars. It's saying that the guy is working when he's going to a softball game because he might have to, if he sees something going, that he might do something. It's about treating a police class different than the citizen class, and that's not right. And the people believe in the police. People join the police to do the right thing and to do good. And if the police aren't fair, when you ask someone else, a new, like the two people that responded were younger, not younger in age, but newer officers, and they are now put into this mud, which they didn't want to or be part of, and now they're just the same as happened with George Floyd. I thought of the guy who was holding the legs of George Floyd because this officer, who shouldn't have been an officer, was training him. I thought of his mother. How does she feel that her son's being trained in this kind of a way to be so sick on it? So the idea of transparency, it means that we believe in police and we're holding them up to the standard that they want to be and that they should be. So that when they testify in court, they don't have this stain on them. How is this guy going to testify? We give them the right to testify in court, to press charges, to do all kinds of things. And if they don't have this kind of fairness, it weakens the public trust to a huge degree in law enforcement. So that's why this is part of joining the chorus of other people who've asked to have the same thing done, and it's part of having an agency, the AG, which has jurisdiction over the multiple people and has some teeth, which will be better than our investigation, but at the same time, we will be doing our part together to try to get resolution on it. And I thank our Majority Leader, Tim Myers, for putting this letter together, and I applaud Legislator Jane Tard for doing a prior letter to the AG, as well as the Comptroller.
Thank you. Next we'll have Legislator St. Jean Tard.
Good morning, everyone. So I was one of the legislators that filed a letter asking the Attorney General to look into this. Because I was getting phone calls, I was talking to colleagues at the City of Buffalo, and they weren't getting answers. And that's an issue. We need to ensure there's transparency. There's no bias going to any investigation. So with that said, I am proud to stand with my colleagues today to ask the governor to give permission to look into this. We need to make sure that this investigation is done right. Yes, we can hold meetings, but we're not investigators. We need to leave it to the experts who does this every single day. So I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to represent my district in ensuring that we are having transparency, that we're asking those tough questions, but most importantly, that there's faith in our justice system. At this time, there's not. This happened a year ago. We found out by the news. I know I did. And we just have to ensure for the future that this can't happen again. There's no bias, that we can restore confidence. And lastly, that Erie County residents understand that we take their concerns very seriously. I hope the governor gives permission for our Attorney General to look into this. We'll be watching, and we're supporting our colleagues in this investigation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Legislator. Next we'll have Legislator Dupree.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, all. I am here to stand with my colleagues, and I want to thank my chair for putting this together, but I'm up here because I believe that we need a little bit of transparency and accountability. I believe that Erie County residents are owed that. I do not like all of our law enforcement walking around being tainted with rumors and innuendo and things that people are being said. We all see what's on social media, we read the papers, and it is not good for us. For our system to work, people need to believe in the institutions that protect us. So I'm here to stand with my colleagues to just want a little bit of accountability and transparency because the county taxpayers deserve it, the sheriff's department deserve it, and that's all we want. We just want to know what happened by who, and then we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Next, we're going to let our County Comptroller weigh in. I know that he has a few words to speak. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chairman. I've previously sent letters to both the Attorney General and the Governor urging an independent investigation because I think it's necessary. Let me tell you why. This thing has been characterized in some quarters as a bad night by one individual in the sheriff's office. I think it's anything but. I think this is really a bad year and a half by a lot of people in law enforcement. And I think it's eroded trust in law enforcement, and I think we need to get to the bottom of it. You know, this happened on the accident with the 7 cars being damaged, happened originally on April 11th of 2024, last year. We didn't find out about it until you all, the media, did the digging and reported on it on March 11th of this year. That's 11 months that a cover-up went on. It was an effective cover-up. It worked for 11 months. I wasn't aware of it. You know, by that point, there were 7 cars damaged. 2 claims had come through my office for payment at different times, processed by different employees in my office. There was no way we would have caught that. Some of the claims are still outstanding, by the way, and certainly we are looking to get the money back on that. So it worked for 11 months. And then all hell broke loose on March 11th of this year, and everybody's running around trying to figure out what's going on. That was more than 6 months ago. You would think by now we would have answers. There are, as Legislator Dupre mentioned, rumors out there as to all sorts of rumors, where the deputy was, what he was doing, who he was with. You know, they're just rumors. And if some of them are true, then there may be further consequences down the road, certainly. We're not capable in the Comptroller's office. The Legislature, I don't think, is capable of doing the sort of investigation we need. That's why we needed an investigation, not just of the events of that night, but of the attempts to cover it up, both in the Buffalo Police Department, however high it went to, in the office of the sheriff. You know, people knew, and they were quite willing to allow the County of Erie pay $70,000 or whatever it costs, and I would agree with Legislator Vinyl that it's not so much the money as it is principle here, but they were willing to take taxpayer money, at the same time not report this, let us pay for it, let the taxpayer pay for it. That's just wrong by people who get their paycheck from Erie County government. So I'm glad that the caucus has joined today in the call for the governor and the Attorney General to get involved, and hopefully they'll be able to get to the bottom of this, because I think it's important. You know, the job of law enforcement is not easy, and certainly that was illustrated yesterday by that terrible incident down in Texas with the shooting at the ICE facility. And it only gets more difficult if people don't view the members of law enforcement as having legitimacy, of lacking credibility. And as I say, something like this only further erodes the public trust. And I think to restore the public trust, we have to have openness and transparency, and hopefully we'll be able to get to the bottom of this. Again, thank you, Chair, for inviting me.
Thank you, Comptroller. At this time, we'll open it up if anybody has any questions for any of the legislators, the controllers.
Do you realistically expect a response out of the governor or the attorney general about this, or were they just kind of pushing it aside?
Yeah, we've already asked them, and they haven't said they're going to do this.
The last time when I seen when the governor was here, she said that she would consider it. So now this is a formal.
Consider it.
Well, I don't know what she's thinking. So I would hope that we would get some kind of response from the governor. I mean, that's what they're there for.
What, are you able to use your subpoena power or hold some sort of a hearing and drag Bill Cooley or whoever was in charge of this cover-up? Why not just put them under the spotlight and say, hey, answer some questions to the Erie County Legislature?
We could, and that's one thing that we hold in our pocket. What I would want to say about that, this is one of the reasons why we've made this request, because the Attorney General holds a big badge, okay? And she can bring somebody in and question them. You're here to answer these questions on such and such a date and such a time. And if you don't, or else. I don't know if we have that or else in our pocket. I mean, if we bring in somebody and we can subpoena them and put them on, and I mean, that's what we have at the end of the day. And I think that we probably would do that. But my thought is, what do we have after that? I mean, we can't fire anybody. We can't do it. We don't have that power. We're the legislative branch. But if we don't get that, we will do that, because at least it'll bring up the public temperature on this whole situation. We don't have that power, like I said, and I don't know what the legal answer is, what our authority is after that. You know, if somebody comes in, doesn't tell the truth, or I didn't know, what do we do with that? Not that we're trying to run away from that. We want that, you know what I mean? We're responsible to the stakeholders of Erie County, and that's the residents. And that's what we're trying to do, is get them the answers. We're not here to hold this up or obstruct this investigation in any way. We want it moving, and we want it going forward, as we said since day one.
If you run into a brick wall, could you potentially withhold funding from the sheriff's department to force them to come and give you answers? I realize you don't have that authority over the Buffalo Police, but at least with the sheriff's department, you could, I don't know if legally you could do that.
Well, we could do anything when it comes budget time. We can take money out of any budget anywhere we so be fit. I don't know how ethical it would be for us to say that you're gonna lose $1 million if you don't come and talk to us. I'm sure there's ways around that where we can look at the budget and do things, you know.
Because
Well,
that
then,
is,
as lawmakers, though, you do have a semblance of power. So what can you do in the future to prevent this happening again and to increase transparency in the sheriff's office?
Let me jump in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, you go first, go ahead.
So there's a couple things we are looking at as a group. One, policies. I think Legislator Lionel mentioned she foiled. We're looking at how many take-home vehicles there are. Are we doing it efficiently? I know the Comptroller is doing an audit, so we are already working on fixing that problem. But when we're looking at hand, can we look at budget? The budget comes out October 15th. We can dispose of the budget, but we have to really look at everything, and that's why we're sending it to the Attorney General. She has that power, that claw to make things change. We're gonna look at the legislative end of it. So yes, we are gonna do it. We'll have some information coming up in the next couple months, so we'll let you know. But we're not trying to have this repeat itself.
What has the sheriff said when you guys went to him, I assume, and what did he say? What were his comments?
Well, the sheriff, I thought we did have the sheriff come to the public safety on a budget issue, and I asked him some questions on that, and one of the things that I was surprised about is that he's saying that no sheriffs are allowed to use their vehicles or take-home vehicles for personal business, which I don't know if is accurate or not. He said it sort of off the cuff, but that's one issue. I do think that, you know, under the law, if someone's using our vehicle with our permission, and that we do have a right to cover it. The only reason there's a question is because we're self-insured, but I don't want to live in a place where an employee gets in an accident and the employer tries to get the money back because that violates 388 of the Vehicle and Traffic Law. I don't think that's a right aspect. But my thing is about, why do we have take-home vehicles? Why do we have take-home vehicles with guns in them going to people's houses all over the area for no benefit? Saying the only benefit, he's saying the reason why he allows take-home vehicles is one of them is because he doesn't have a place to store them safely. So how is it being stored more safely on a driveway off of Harlem Road? I mean, it doesn't make sense, you know. So it's so he didn't put in. He said that he has it seems like he has a deep friendship with Detective Granville, and he, you know, feels that he is made it up to him in some way. But I think that he's missing the point of the public doesn't, you can't have two standards for the sheriff and for regular people to that kind of an extent. If you look at the doorbell videos, how they treated the public when they asked for what's going on, and someone was told, like, you know, mind your own effing business or something. I mean, it's like, you can't have a police with that kind of, you know, disregard for public, you know, aspect of it. So the FOIL request, the one thing about the FOIL is I've made a more detailed FOIL, which I'm going to give out to you on this one, because there's a law that says that they don't have to give if there's an investigation, but it's not that if there is an investigation, thou shalt not give. It's discretionary. Now there's no reason for discretion. So, but because they had discretion, I couldn't do an appeal on that. I thought this one, if it goes, which I can give out now, that they have, that we'll all see with the answer. That's why I clocked it in, to see the answer about, like, the take-home vehicles. I also want to know what he put down is on his timesheets for when he's working. Like, we pay, it's just an incredibly ridiculous amount when you compare it to the number of arrests, when you compare it to just how much we're paying on overtime. It's just, you know, and the cost of that goes throughout, besides this year, it goes out throughout the retirement years. And it shouldn't be just because every time, if there is overtime that's put in illegally, that's like a lie. And you're having the person lie, you can't make lying or covering up commonplace. You have to make it that it's an event that needs something to be done with it, as you did with the, you know, with the priest thing. It's the same thing, right? You know, it's the same kind of a thing of having that. So I would like to give out my FOIL before you guys go, and then you guys can follow. Hopefully that will give them more accountability to respond to it.
So So the sheriff said that Detective Granville has had no prior misconduct. We've been given nothing to support that statement.
I have that in the foil to say that, yeah.
We've asked the DA's office now, and the DA's office is now saying, no, we're not gonna release documents to you. What do you make of that? Is that
So
suspect?
let me chime in here, because I want to go back to your original questions, what I think what led us to where we are right now. When we all found out about this, we talked about it, and we came to the conclusion that we really didn't have the authority to do a proper investigation. So we all kind of took a back seat to allow, the city was going to do their investigation. Then I believe it was the Niagara County Special Prosecutor were going to do their investigation. We're going to let people do their jobs to give us the answers. Now I think they're done, or they're not going any further, and we still don't have answers. So to answer your original question about sending it to the governor, that's our next step. That's what we need to do, is the proper chain of command to ask the governor for help, for someone who has the authority to take this to the next level. The question I think then was posed, what if the governor doesn't do anything? Well, we're hoping something happens. But it's the next thing. So we shouldn't go out of sequence here. We shouldn't start in our own investigation without asking for the proper help from the proper authorities who can get real answers. And you can quickly go off track into take-home cars, overtime. It's not, I didn't mean that in disrespectful. That's not what I meant.
That's the whole thing.
But we are trying to get answers to this specific incident. And if we can get answers to this incident, then we can move forward on policy issues for take-home vehicles, for overtime. But I think we need to answer the first questions first. What happened? Who knew about it? And how do we move forward in correcting this? So, thank you.
The Erie County Legislature, on a bipartisan level, overwhelmingly approved a resolution back in March saying, we are going to investigate this matter. You initially had an investigative set for the following month, then you cancel it. It's now 6 months later. I'm curious as to why you feel like you had more investigative authority back in March, but don't feel 6 months later that you have that same authority or skill. And I also am curious to know, why can't these things happen concurrently? Why can't the legislature, as the elected representatives of the people, move forward with its own oversight of the sheriff, ask his office to come in and ask any other departments to come in, maybe answer some questions, while all of these other investigations are pending? There's been a lot of waiting that's been going on. You've expressed that the public is frustrated. Why not respond to that? The Common Council has held 2 meetings regarding this matter. You can have more than one if you don't feel like you're getting all the answers you want. I am surprised to hear that you're not sure that you have subpoena power, because I think you do. So
We didn't say that we do have subpoena powers. There's nobody's denying that we don't have
Okay.
subpoena power. The question that I brought up is, what is the result of that subpoena power? If somebody comes in and lies, what do we actually do with that?
Or do they show up?
Or do they show up?
They don't show up.
And again, I get that. We approve that this was a quick moving object that happened that day. That story just broke and all that. Nobody's running away from it. I mean, to give the assertion that we're just letting this play out so somebody else can look at it so we can take a pass on it, that's not the case. And we can't we're getting to the point where it's almost mass chaos. There's an investigation here, internal affairs over here, special prosecutor over here. So Legislator Barnese said, we want to go through the proper channels. We still have that committee of the whole and the subpoena power in our pockets. We want to see what happens first. We didn't say that we have the subpoena power and the committee of the whole and we're going to do it tomorrow. We didn't say that. So this is the way that we feel. It's like anything. Things change all the time. We want the answers just like everybody else does. Nobody in here wants the answers more than us. You know what I mean? Because we are the ones who are wearing this and had nothing to do with it.
How long do you intend to wait? I'm sorry. How long do you intend to wait for some sort of answer? Because these questions, you are the 4th group or individual to put forth a letter asking for the governor or the attorney general to take some action. They haven't done anything yet. How long do you intend to wait for an answer?
You want a time frame?
I'm just wondering, you guys, you said you have.
The
to
letter,
send
the
that
letter,
comment.
the
How long
letters,
did
the
you-
letter's going out. The letter's going out today, so we'll give them a reasonable time. If we don't hear anything, then we'll make a call to the governor's office and see, do they plan on responding, do they don't responding? If we don't get the response that we think we should get, then we're gonna move ahead.
But I think I think it should be noted that it's the first time that this body is asked. So it's the first time that we, go
There-
ahead, go ahead. Yeah, the
let-
first time as a group. As a
Let
group
me,
that
let
we've
me,
asked. I
let me
mean,
just say though first, there was request made from individuals for the AG to look into this. The AG, nobody knew the law at that time that the AG does not have the authority to do it. It had to come from the governor. So that's why we're at this point that we're at.
I think it has a little more teeth coming from us as a group, as the county legislator, asking the governor for this, not to take away anything that other legislators have done.
Or the lowly controller.
And I think
Excuse me, I didn't mean to
I think it
excuse
makes
you.
sense for a timetable. So when it all happened, and I like to make it clear, I wasn't even a legislator during that time. But when it happened, we were all having discussions how we wanted to handle this. One of those things we called the Common Council. What are you guys gonna do? They had, you mentioned, Sandy, police oversight meetings. People didn't show up for that. So we've seen that there was a lack of effort on multiple sides. And we wanted to give more time to the Niagara DA to see if they were getting answers. When we're hearing both sides weren't really cooperating, that's why, personally, I filed my letter. I know I spoke to the chair, he was fully supportive of it because we were tired of waiting. The comptroller filed a letter, and now we're standing as a group, and we just want answers. So yes, we want the governor to give permission to the attorney general to handle this, because that's what they do every day. They handle investigations. If not, we will subpoena. We may have a committee of the whole. And if that happens, we're having constant communication with not only county government, but city government to see how can we get proper answers and justice for our community and our residents.
So Sandy reported that he's gonna go back to work on Monday. Do we know, is he going to be given a vehicle?
That would be,
Vehicle?
that would be a question for the sheriff. We don't know that. But what I would say is, following up on Sandy's point, if we don't get the response from the governor or any kind of response or a response that they're not gonna look into it, I don't wanna speak for everybody here, but I think at that point, then we would convene the committee of the whole and we would bring some people in and ask these pointed questions. And then we would turn them over to whatever legal person had the authority to do anything about it, whether it's a district attorney, whether it's the AG, or whoever. But at least at that point, we would run the course of what this legislature has the power to do.
For the comptroller, where do we stand right now on the issue of restitution?
Well, all I know is what we heard in the news this morning was that there's a draft agreement towards restitution. Now, my office reached out to the county attorney this morning, and I'm not sure that that's as far along as it was indicated, perhaps by the detective's lawyer. So I think we're still a ways off. As far as I know, all the settlements have not occurred yet. I mean, there are still people out there who have their suits against the county, and you know, all that hasn't been settled yet. I would say, as long as I'm up here, in terms of the governor and where we go from here, I mean, I just cannot imagine why the governor or the attorney general would not be interested in this. I mean, there is such a cloud of suspicion surrounding both the office of the sheriff and the Buffalo Police Department. I would think that everybody, especially members of those law enforcement agencies, want this to be cleared up as soon as possible. And it's been dragged out now for 6 months since we found out about it, and 11 months previously when the cover-up started at the scene. I'm hopeful that the governor, that the attorney general will respond to this latest request. That's them right now. That they'll respond. I'm hopeful that the governor, that the attorney general will respond to this request favorably, start the investigation, in effect, do the right thing.
If this investigation turns out that there was a cover-up, that all these things that are alleged did happen, should the sheriff step down and should Detective Granville be fired?
Well, let's see what the investigation bears out.
In regard to.
I mean, I can't call for somebody to resign or somebody to be fired when we don't have the findings of all that, but that's a really good possibility.
In regard to the assertions you were making about how people are asking questions and no one's providing answers, have you actually asked the sheriff if he would come before you and answer any questions? Has the sheriff indicated in any way that he would not be cooperative or respond if you actually asked him to come before you as the oversight body for the county?
No, all I'm aware of is that the sheriff, when he released a statement that investigation was done and Detective Granville received 2 misdemeanors, a fine, and some community service, and I don't think that passed the sniff test, but I have not had a conversation with him.
You know, this
Will he
is,
be coming to you during the budget process? Wouldn't there be an opportunity then to ask him questions?
Yeah,
I
That's
don't-
why I want to have the FOIL responses
There-
before then, so we can.
There would be, but we're talking about 2 different things. If we're gonna get into this incident, it would have to, we could, but I don't think that that's the setting for that to get into an investigation. If he comes over here, he's coming over here to answer questions on the budget.
But if you have them right there,
I'm sure that question will
Bird
come
in
up.
the hand.
I'm sure it will, and let's see how he responds. But I wouldn't have a lot of faith in that one.
A lot of the erosion of the public trust comes from the cover-up, but a lot of it also comes from a feeling of a double standard. That if I went out and did what Granville did, I would lose my job. Do any of you think he should still have his job?
I can speak for myself.
It's, I'm sure everybody has a feeling on this, but it hasn't, we have like rumors, we haven't had, we don't have body cam footage, we don't have reports, there was no breathalyzer, we don't have this or that, I mean, I've said this a million times, I go by, I think Erie County has a smart electorate, I think the voters of Erie County are very, very smart, and you talk to anybody on the street, and they say, this ain't right, this whole thing smells, and that's what I judge my
the voters of
thoughts
Erie
on.
County don't have a choice because your party couldn't find anyone to run against the sheriff, right? How does that happen?
You'd have to ask the chairman of the Democratic Party, not me.
I was busy.
Does the timing of this letter have anything to do with when Granville is set to return to work?
No, actually, I did not know that he was coming back. I had a talk with a reporter the other day, I won't name who said that he was scheduled to come back, but I did not know that.
all right, thank you guys.
Thank you.